Replacing a single electrical meter with 7 meters for individual lease spaces in a 13,000 square foot building requires careful planning and adherence to the National Electrical Code, commonly referred to as the NEC. The goal is to provide separate metering for each of the 7 lease spaces while ensuring safe and code-compliant electrical service. The best approach involves installing a meter bank and utilizing a tapcan with a subfeeder to distribute power to the 7 meters. Firstly, consider installing a meter bank outside the building. This centralizes the meters, making them easily accessible for reading, maintenance, and potential future upgrades. The meter bank should be weatherproof and securely mounted. Secondly, run individual feeds from each meter in the bank to the corresponding meter base in each lease space. Use appropriately sized conduit and wiring, ensuring that the conductors are protected for physical damage and environmental factors. Thirdly, mount meter bases in each lease space. Ensure they meet all local and national electrical code requirements for accessibility, height, and security. The NEC limits the number of meters per service to 6, so a workaround is needed to accommodate the 7 meters. There are a few options to overcome this limitation. One option is to divide the building into 2 separate service areas, each with its own service panel, and each panel feeding up to 6 meters. However, this approach is often more complex and expensive due to the need for additional wiring, equipment, and potential modifications to the building's electrical infrastructure. The recommended approach is to use a tapcan with a subfeeder. This method allows the existing service to feed the 7 meters while remaining compliant with the NEC. To implement this, install a tapcan outside the existing service panel. This tapcan will serve as the connection point for the existing service to feed a subfeeder. Connect the existing service conductors to the tapcan, ensuring proper connections and terminations. The tapcan should be sized appropriately for the existing service conductors and the anticipated load of the 7 meters. From the tapcan, run a subfeeder to a separate panel, which will then feed the 7 lease space meters. This separate panel will function as a distribution point for the individual meters. Carefully size the subfeeder conductors to ensure they can handle the total load of the 7 meters, taking into account factors such as demand factors and potential future load growth. The subfeeder must comply with NEC requirements for overcurrent protection, voltage drop, and conductor ampacity. Calculating the appropriate size of the subfeeder involves several steps. Firstly, determine the total connected load of each lease space. This can be estimated based on the type of business, the square footage of the space, and the anticipated electrical usage. Consult with the tenant or building owner to obtain accurate load information. Secondly, apply demand factors to the connected load to account for the fact that not all loads will be operating at the same time. Demand factors vary depending on the type of occupancy and the number of units being served. Consult the NEC for appropriate demand factors for commercial buildings. Thirdly, calculate the total demand load by summing the demand loads of all 7 lease spaces. This value represents the maximum current that the subfeeder will be required to carry. Fourthly, determine the minimum ampacity of the subfeeder conductors based on the total demand load. The NEC provides tables that specify the allowable ampacity of conductors based on their size, insulation type, and installation method. Choose conductors with an ampacity that is equal to or greater than the total demand load. Fifthly, calculate the voltage drop in the subfeeder conductors. Voltage drop occurs due to the resistance of the conductors and the current flowing through them. Excessive voltage drop can cause equipment to malfunction and reduce the efficiency of the electrical system. The NEC recommends limiting voltage drop to no more than 3% for feeders and 5% for branch circuits. Use a voltage drop calculator or consult with an electrical engineer to determine the appropriate conductor size to minimize voltage drop. Sixthly, select overcurrent protection devices for the subfeeder and the individual meter circuits. Overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers or fuses, are designed to protect conductors from overheating and damage due to overloads or short circuits. The size of the overcurrent protection devices must be coordinated with the ampacity of the conductors they are protecting. Consult the NEC for guidance on selecting appropriate overcurrent protection devices. Once a subfeeder is properly sized and protected, connect it to the separate panel. This panel will house the circuit breakers or fuses that protect the individual meter circuits. From the separate panel, run individual branch circuits to each of the 7 meter bases. The branch circuits should be sized according to the load requirements of each lease space and protected by appropriately sized overcurrent protection devices. Ensure that all wiring connections are made properly and that all equipment is grounded in accordance with the NEC. Grounding is essential for providing a safe path for fault current to return to the source, reducing the risk of electrical shock. After the installation is complete, thoroughly test the electrical system to ensure that it is functioning properly and that all circuits are properly protected. Use a multimeter to verify voltage levels and continuity. Use an amp meter to measure current flow. Perform insulation resistance tests to check for any insulation breakdown. Following these steps will result in a safe, code-compliant, and efficient electrical metering system for the 7 lease spaces. Remember to always consult with a qualified electrician or electrical engineer to ensure that the installation meets all applicable codes and standards. Ignoring this, in summary, firstly, install a meter bank outside the building to centralize the meters. Secondly, use option 2, a tapcam with subfeeder, to feed the 7 meters, addressing the NEC limitation of 6 meters per service. Thirdly, run individual feeds from the meter bank to each lease space meter base, ensuring separate and accurate metering for each tenant.